Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I am delighted to see so many people here, and I've got to tell you, you are definitely in for a treat. Um, about 20 years ago, the lady who was the bell choir director here, Carolyn Reese, came to me, and I'm the organist at Bethlehem for the non-Bethlehem people. But came to me and said that she had run into a piece of music that involved organ and piano, and at the time, Lily was our piano player, and we did duets frequently, and said this piece involves organ and piano and bells and choir, and it's an introit for Easter Sunday called "Christ the Lord is Risen Today." And I looked it up yesterday, and it's copyright 2001. And so I looked at the piece of music and said I loved it. And so she ordered it, the bells, learned it. I practiced some with the bells. Lily practiced some with the bells, practiced with the choir. We had never done anything that big. Carolyn described it as a three-ring circus. which was entirely appropriate, but it was received very well, and I said, find another one, and after that, the bells frequently did Joel's pieces, and then I started discovering that he also publishes a lot of anthems, just single anthems for the choir, and cantatas. And so we have now probably 15 or so anthems and maybe about a dozen cantatas of his that we have done. And oh yes, I'm getting to that. So, sorry I'm taking so long. But last year, about this time last year, I celebrated being at Bethlehem for 25 years. And in recognition of that, Karen DeBoard went through Hope Publishing and contacted Joel and asked him if he would do a video to surprise me at the surprise party. I knew something was up, but I didn't know what they were planning. But and so it and he did that. To make a long story short, he did a video, and they played it at the party, and in the course of doing that, Joel said, you should come sing with us at Carnegie Hall. And so our choir was invited to sing at Carnegie Hall, and we went up there, and last Thanksgiving weekend, we sang his cantata, Have You Heard? And it was his Carnegie Hall debut, and of course ours, of course. And I never thought that the first time I set foot in Carnegie Hall, I'd be on the stage. That was, I mean, just beyond a dream. But so this weekend is for me beyond a dream also, and it's been a perfect delight to meet Joel and Jane both and get to know them a little bit. And as I said, you will definitely be delighted and amazed. And one thing that I would like to, I mean, this concert is free, and we want to have more of these in the future. And if you would like to make a donation to help us defray some of the costs of that, there's a collection plate by the door. or you can go to the church website and donate through there. And anything, any small contributions would be appreciated. So welcome, and I now give you Joel Raney and Jane Holstein.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Good afternoon. Welcome to Keyboard Excursions. We call it excursion. Well, the definition of excursion is a trip off the beaten path. And so I think you will probably agree after you've listened to us for an hour that we have not been on the beaten path. A lot of people ask us if we're married, and the answer is yes, we are. Not to each other, but we're married. I first met Jane back in 1996 when she came to be music director at a church where I occasionally played piano. And we hit it off right away and started playing together eventually. And we've been doing this concert now for 30 years or something like it. And we've had just a delightful time. We have a similar background. We both grew up in church music. We both love hymnody. And we've been through a lot of hymnals. Jane, you were Nazarene. I was Southern Baptist. Jane married a Catholic. I married a Methodist. And now we work for the Presbyterians.
Oh, that's fun. So, to continue that story just a little bit, the first piece that Joel composed for us is the next piece that's on the program. It's a suite of variations based on Kumbaya. I had been invited the summer of 1997 to be the organ clinician at a music conference for the American Baptists up in Green Lake, Wisconsin. And I'd been there many times doing other things for them. I knew what situation the organ was in to be that organ clinician, and on Monday night, the organist gave a concert, and I thought, there's no way I can make that bad Allen organ that was way back from the 60s sound good at all. There was just no repertoire. So I went to Joel, and I said, you know, I know they have a Steinway up in that room. Would you consider joining me? Come up. And he immediately said, sure, I'd love to, and I'll write some things for you. And that's where this all began. All of the pieces on this program, whether they're transcriptions or hymn tunes, settings, have been arranged by Joel with a little input from the organist now and then. But
oh, she has input, Billy.
I can't tell you how much fun I'm having over here. This is a great instrument. Bravo. Here's Kumbaya. Thank you. The next piece on the program is a hymn setting, actually a newer hymn though, written in 1972 by Hal Hobson, a very familiar English folk tune named "O Wally Wally," and you will recognize that, I'm quite certain. The hymn text, I believe, is in the Methodist hymnal, so you probably have sung "The Gift of Love." The theme of this that Hal took was a paraphrase of 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And that is the kind of agape love that is most Christ-like, most giving. And I just wanted to give a shout out to this congregation, because I have to say, from the minute David and I were picked up at the airport, we have just learned so much and felt so good about this community. You are all Christ followers in the best sense of it. And that's a little bit about this hymn text, because it says, "Though I may speak with bravest fire and have the gift to all inspire, but have not love, I'm like sounding brass." That's no good, is it? So, and it goes on to have a little bit of a prayer in verse 3, which I really love. And again, such a reflection of people who enjoy being together when we pray, "Come, Spirit, come. Our hearts control. Our spirits long to be made whole. Let inward love guide every deed. By this we worship and are freed." The music is lush and romantic and gives us great joy to play.
need to see my program. I'm not sure what's. Okay, that's what I thought. Carry Me Home. But I decided not to do Carry Me Home. I grew up, as I mentioned, in a small town in North Alabama. I grew up in a Southern Baptist church, a tiny little church. And I cut my teeth on the Broadman hymnal. Anybody remember that one? Yeah, I still have my Broadman hymnal that I wrote my name in ink. I'm curious, how many of you have a hymnal in your home? Look at that. How many of you stole those hymnals? Anyway, I love all the old gospel hymns. That's what we sang. Bouncy Sunday night tunes, we called them. But I went through and put together a group of hymns from that book that I happen to like. And the common theme and the title of this medley is Heaven. I need my programming. At one point in my life, I really wanted to score films. I love film scores. I collect them. And I worked for 20 years in the commercial music industry, writing radio and television jingles. And in a way, that's film scoring, but 60 seconds at a time. And the thing that arrangers like to do, like myself, is paint pictures with the music. It's like, that's why I liked film so much. I loved seeing something beautiful and scenic or something horrible and being able to figure out how to enhance that mood. Or sometimes go the opposite way. It's fun, film scoring. And I do that when I arrange anything. I either paint a picture in my mind and I try to paint that for you, the listener. For instance, this next piece is in his hands. It's another set of variations on he's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the tiny little baby in his hands. Now picture a tiny little baby rocking it to sleep. He's got all the busy people in his hands. I imagine New York City at rush hour. The thunder and lightning. This is a horrible hurricane, and you'll see why. The itty-bitty creatures, picture little tiny puppies and bunnies and chicks hopping around. All my joy. Picture yourself on your happiest day. All of our sorrow, all of our collective sorrow. And then finally, he's got the whole world in his hands, which is written in the style of an organ toccata. This is in his hands.
I'm glad that Joel had mentioned that commercial industry that he was a part of. When I first met him in 1996, that was his full-time career. And then I found out that he was a pretty good pianist. But in that process, Joel's company landed the account with United Airlines. And even here in Virginia, you probably have heard some of those commercials using Rhapsody in Blue. Or if you've ever flown in and out of United in Chicago and gone from Terminal B to C in the tunnel with all the cool lights and music playing, that's of course Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. Joel had the privilege of playing the piano for those commercials with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. So that was pretty special. When we learned of this concert and another concert that we're giving back home at our church for our 100th anniversary, I invited Joel over for a little sip of something. And I thought the answer might be no. I didn't know which way this would go, but I said, Joel, you know, buddy, let's pull out the entire Rhapsody in Blue. I'll be the orchestra. You play that solo part, Mr. Juilliard. And he said yes. So that the ice must have been good that evening. So literally, we have put this together. It is the second time we are playing it in public. Well, he would like you to know that he only learned the last 60 seconds because that's what they used for the commercials. So this has been a blast. We hope you'll enjoy Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue.
I just wanted to say I'm so glad that's over. You have been a delight to play for. Thank you for coming out this afternoon. And I want to thank Karen and Jack for hosting us. It's been a spectacular weekend. They, if you don't know them, they have this little shanty down the road. It was absolutely gorgeous, and the food was delicious. And yes, and thank you. And thank you, Robbie. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Thank you for inviting us and for making it happen. And hope to see you in Carnegie Hall next year. We want to close with a piece that we've been playing for a while that we have a lot of fun with. And you're going to know this piece because it was made famous by Bugs Bunny. I probably don't need to say this, but it's the Liszt Second Hungarian Rhapsody.
for coming.